Be Nice is the 23rd episode of the third season of Everybody Loves Raymond. This is directed by Steve Zuckerman, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And I really enjoyed this episode. I think it raises a lot of interesting discussion points. It's definitely very funny. Ultimately, not too bad. And also, I mentioned, I think in the previous episode discussion, that I'm now playing a game of spot the Disney character soft toys, because there are soft toys everywhere, and I've realised that when I'm pausing it or if we get close-ups, there are Disney toys in the background. I don't know if I'll do this all of the time, but in this one, I spotted Owl from the previous episode, but in a different position, and also Baloo, King Louie, and Kanga. So I'm having good fun with that. If you watch the episode and spot any, please feel free to share. The episode starts off with Debra on the phone, and she's on the phone to one of the other parents, a parent of one of the children's friends, and Ray is looking for the paper, and he's asking Debra while she's on the phone, do you know where the paper is? And Debra keeps telling him, I'm on the phone. And as Ray points out, and I have to say, Ray has a point, in the time it took her to say, be quiet, I'm on the phone, she could have just said where the paper was. Granted, we do learn that she didn't know where the paper was, but it's definitely an interesting look at how they communicate, or perhaps don't communicate. Ray then has to take the kids to the park. It's his day to take them to the park, and it's really nice to be outside. We don't spend that much time outdoors, and Everybody Loves Raymond, so when we do, it's quite nice and refreshing. And while he's there, he's talking with other mothers. He's helping one of them with the wheel on the pushchair, and he watches another child while the mother goes to get everybody popsicles. He's doing a lot of work, and he's happy to do it. And this is not the Ray that we see at home. And Debra actually comes to the park with the twins' jackets, as Ray forgot them, and she sees Ray doing all of these different things, and I had to laugh quite a bit when she said, you're watching additional children, because watching his children was, such a chore, and then he's now watching somebody else's child while she goes to get popsicles, which amused me quite a lot. And then we cut to the bedroom scene. I think every episode has a bedroom scene, at least so far. And in this one, they both apologise to each other quite quickly for the way they spoke to each other, the way they behaved with each other. And Debra suggests that maybe they're nicer to each other because they seem to be nicer to strangers than they are to each other, which I have to say probably is very believable for most people. But I think that's also a comfort thing. Because once you get to a certain point in a relationship, obviously it's nice to say please and thank you still, but if somebody didn't say please to me all of the time, I wouldn't think it's because they don't have manners. I think it's just because you're relaxed and you're letting your guard down. But as Debra points out, maybe they could make a bit more of an effort. And they suggest some ways of doing this, such as stopping name calling. And then Debra takes it a bit too far and talks about how when she was in labour, Ray could have helped her instead of getting magazines to read, and I think she maybe pushed it a little bit too far. But I guess the point there is that they have a lot of work to do, and they're trying. They're really trying, but it is unnerving. And other people think so too, because Frank comes over, there are books everywhere, so many books, and Marie and Robert are there, and Debra and Ray are sickly sweet nice to each other to the point where they all just look at them as if to say, what's happening? What's going on? And I rather like that. It helped to show that actually this isn't how they communicate ordinarily. And when they force it, it just seems really strange. And I think they both realise that as well, because we have this brilliantly executed scene where Ray is trying to eat food that Debra made. He really doesn't want to, and he's behaving like a bit of an idiot, but Debra's not allowed to name call him. And Ray suggested, and I just thought this was great, Ray suggested, I throw this out and you can call me an idiot. And I thought that was brilliant. Relationships are largely about compromise, and I don't think when Debra calls Ray an idiot, it really hurts his feelings too much, because he realises now that sometimes he needs to do things that Debra might not see as great, and they have a bit of compromise, and they get what they want. And honestly, neither of them are that hurt. Is Debra really that hurt that Ray threw out her cooking? No, probably not, because she knows she's not great at cooking. Is Ray really hurt that Debra called him an idiot? No, because he realises that he was probably being a bit of an idiot with what he was doing and being a bit disrespectful with the cooking, and it's give and take. And they hugged each other and kissed, and, well, Ray skipped upstairs, and Debra very slowly walked up the stairs the way Ray had done earlier in the episode. And I thought it was a really good episode, but I definitely think it raises some interesting points about how people have different ways of communicating, and that's normal and natural to them. Their communication language isn't all sickly sweet please and thank yous, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Yes, obviously people can be nicer to each other, but at the same time, when you both kind of have ways of communicating with each other that are to outside people negative, but it's not that bad. I know Ray said he had a problem with the name calling, but I think he was able to then realise that actually it's just something Debra does to vent or let off steam, and she doesn't really think well, maybe she does think he's an idiot, but only when he's behaving like an idiot. Name calling is never acceptable, but if it's part of your love language and it's just how you communicate, then I guess it's fine. It's different for everybody, but it raises some interesting points about whether you should communicate in the way that people outside looking in would expect, or if actually it's fine to communicate differently to the way you would with strangers. Honestly, I don't think that communicating with your partner in the same way you communicate with strangers could be very healthy at all. I could be wrong, maybe I'm alone with that, but I feel like if you're communicating with your partner in the same way as you are with strangers, do you think of them any differently? Who knows? Either way, really good episode. Enjoyed looking at the Disney toys. Definitely had a lot of fun with this one. And ultimately, it's a really great episode of Everybody Loves Raymond.